Hi YouTube, my name's Outsiders, Sean Connors, and this is my reply to Tsubo57. Now, yes, myself and Tsubo57 were throwing a few equivalent emails at each other regarding different methods of rolling dice, and effectively we came to the decision that we'll probably do videos on this subject. He's done his, I've just had a look at his, so I think it gives me the opportunity to reply. So I'm going to reply directly to his video. I think it's a great video and I really appreciate it. And I'll just have to say a big shout out to him because actually, as a person who speaks on many subjects, he does so with authority and a lot of credibility to him, because a lot of the time when I listen to some of his subjects, and I don't always reply, but I do watch a lot of the videos, I do enjoy the subject matter that he covers off, and I really do appreciate it. And I know it's not all D&D, where mine is, so I do appreciate what you do. So let's get straight into your debate. I have actually, for a long period of time, I've been using, funny enough, I've been using the point buy method ever since 3rd edition came along. I've been a big D&D fan, as anybody know from my videos. I do love the system. I don't like 4th edition, but we've covered that off in the video. But point buy has been the mainstay of our group for a long period of time. The reasons for that have been that it generally tends to create, it gives everybody an equal footing, no one's disadvantaged, and therefore, in theory, everybody's on a level playing field. Now, I need to immediately say there is quite an interesting thing here, actually. Although we say that, I can tell you now that because of many years of playing this game, and I'm sure many of you will be the same, I know in myself, in the kindest possible way, there's a certain point where a poorly designed character it doesn't matter whether you use point buy or roll some dice, if it's poorly designed, it sucks, and they just generally don't last very long because of the design of the character, because of the way players play it. I mean, they can play it with a lot of fun and theatrics, and that could be another debate for another time, but it just sucks. And what you end up with is a situation, which is what point buy generally tends to do, which is what I found over examining all these characters, the trends of all these characters over a long period of time, in many groups, not just one group. Players get wise to creating better characters, is what happens. So once they've done one campaign, first campaign they place the stats where they want to. Second campaign or second character, start tightening up the stats, putting them in the most logical places. Third campaign, they're really tightening it. Before you know it, you've got a group of min-maxers. You could draw the line there. You could say as a DM, hold on a minute, but I want you to do this and this. So it just destroys point buy straight away, to be honest. So I think, you've got to sort of, it's an interesting quandary, because I tend to sort of I see the obvious every time now. Fighters, I see the maxed out fighters, particularly in the new Pathfinder rules, which has really upped the power level. We talked, myself and Tsubo57, about power creep a little bit, and he's right in what he said to me. In every edition it's got worse, and there's no doubt he's absolutely spot on. And I think the problem is that this is what point buy is encouraging, because the characters are upping all the time, and the point buy is encouraging them to really min-max. And I don't really care what people say, but they just do. As human nature, that's what happens, and you can't really have, it's one thing to cap, you can have point buy and then cap it out, because then what you have is a load of really good stats that sort of levelled off. So you don't really win, and the characters just, they'll angle the character in a slightly different way. So I think, having gone through this big transition, where I'm going with this is very simple. I've used point buy all the time, even in this current campaign I've been running for Pathfinder in my main group. We used point buy when we started the characters off. But there's two things. I miss rolling up the characters a little bit, actually, with all the players. I think that's a bit of a shame it's lost, because you can easily do point buy on your own at home without any problem, and that's good in some ways. But I miss the camaraderie of rolling up characters. I think when we rolled them up in the past, we used to have a DM's prerogative, so you would look at what characters generated, and there'd be a fine line. So we used to use, probably, if you look at Pathfinder as an example of 3.5 D&D, we'd probably say +4 is what you're looking for, at least +4 bonuses throughout the character, wherever they may be, to make the character at least playable, because you're right in what you use the words, you want players to be heroic. I do agree with you, but I still think you can get a very interesting character where not all the stats are the way you want them, because what you find, this is the problem with point buy, it is very, very easy. You can't really say it's wrong, because the system is there for the player to use. You play a fighter, you want to max out your strength for obvious reasons. You'll want to have a reasonably good con. Those are the two fundamentals. So if you're lucky, you might be able to compromise a little and stretch a couple of stats. So you've got good con, good dex, or whatever. But that's basically what you can do. If you play a wizard, you're going to max out your intelligence, and so on and so on and so on. And you tend to get these clones, and then once you start with the stats being cloned off. Certain spells become duplicated again and again and again, and I don't see that creativity, that spark, that interest that was once there before. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons, this is why this is such a good debate, one of the reasons why I feel a little, and it's only in Pathfinder, I feel a little bit burnt out. I don't feel burnt out in other systems. I'm just finding it a little bit, it's really mind-numbing. And I think it's because I'd actually like to see the players a little bit more challenged when they first create their characters, because it would create more interest down the stretch. We're at that point now, we're going down the stretch, we're in those levels that are very interesting. But there's the weaknesses of the system are beginning to show through a little for me, and it's a little bit around the point buy. I'm confident that the point buys create this problem whereas before the challenge ratings would fit much better with a fair mix of character abilities and stats, I feel at the moment it just doesn't quite gel. So I think point buy has a little bit to play with it. So I'm personally thinking that in the future what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to rolling at the start of a campaign. If I'm doing Pathfinder again or 3.5, I'm sure I'll come back to it. At the moment my plan is simply I want to use Warhammer, which is a completely different system, and ironically enough doesn't have a rolling up procedure. It has a different way of approaching the stats and the various abilities the players start with. So I quite like that. But again, it works specifically for that system. So I probably think, to be honest, the camp I'm moving more towards actually is I'm going to go back to rolling up. If I had to give you an idea of what I would probably do, I probably think very simply I would probably do 4d6, the old-fashioned way, 4d6, 7 times, drop the worst one out. 4d6 dice, drop the worst one each time you roll. Do it 7 times and take the best 6 out of the 7. If the players don't get at least +4 after it's all been rolled up, then that's a dump stat, start again, re-roll. You're generally going to find it's pretty fair. Players can place their stats where they want, but it's going to get away from some of the cloning that I'm currently seeing throughout all the groups that I DM for. So that's the reason that I'm probably going to move towards that direction of rolling up. I hope that's the level of detail that you want to Subo, I really do. But that's really as far as I think I can really take it. So for me personally, that's what I'm going to do, and those are the reasons. I just think point buy, it's very easy to min-max. I've said this in a previous video. I can give, if I was a player and the shoe was on the other foot and somebody said, "Yeah, Sean, there you go, that's the point buy system I'm using. I want you to create this heroic character," I'm going to give a referee a tough time. Not because I'm going to be an awkward, difficult son of a gun. No, but because I'm going to create a very, very tough character. And it's very, very easy to say, well, you're God, you're this. You play by these rules. I mean, D&D and Pathfinder is a very tight ship of rules. It's very difficult to start tweaking them if you want to keep your players. Everybody admires consistency and fairness, but if you then start willy-nilly changing the rules because you suddenly realise things are a little bit maybe broken or don't quite work as well as you want, that's an issue, a fundamental problem. And I am seeing that a little in Pathfinder, and I do think rolling up might be the better way to go. So anyway, sorry to witter on. Those are my thoughts. Thank you very much for the video. I hope this is of some interest to some of you. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Till the next time. Happy gaming. See you soon.